Tonight on CTV News, Red Zone residents rejoice following a Supreme Court decision that goes in their favour. Freedom campers back in the spotlight, and some magic to stamp out bullying.
Broadcasting across Canterbury, from the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Good evening. It was supported by the Human Rights Commission, and today a group of Red Zoners won their battle against the government. Sarah will have to pay higher compensation for uninsured homes and commercial buildings affected by the earthquakes. It's been a 2-year court battle worth the wait for the group of quake outcasts.
Uninsured earthquake properties will be paid out. That's the decision made by the Supreme Court today. Sarah must reconsider its offer of compensation to 160 landowners in the Bexley Red Zone, but just how much is yet to be determined. Sarah had offered them half their rateable land value compared to insured owners who were given full payouts after the earthquakes. But today, after 2 years of court battles, the Supreme Court found Sarah's reduced offer was not lawful, and it was their red zoning policy that was at fault, not the fact the owner was uninsured. It also says Sarah had not adhered its social, economic, cultural and environmental well-being responsibilities in its policy. Delays in the consultation and the very difficult conditions of living in the red zones were also considered, swaying the court's decision in favour of the owners. This decision has brought closure to the owners and assurance with the government's legal process. But just how much will the Crown now offer to the owners? Earthquake Recovery Minister Jerry Brownlee says Sarah now accepts the court's positions and it needs to reconsider compensation. He says the minister will now fully consider the judgment before it provides updated payout amounts.
Well, 4 years on from the earthquakes, the New Zealand Red Cross is targeting disillusioned Cantabrians. A series of seminars have been launched to help anyone still struggling to cope. Marcus Gibbs explains.
4 years on from this terrible day, how far have Cantabrians come? Christchurch is rebuilding, structures have been demolished, and more are going up in their place every day. However, the New Zealand Red Cross says the city hasn't recovered. Buildings are still broken, and so too are a lot of people. The Red Cross is launching a new initiative called Recovery Matters to teach about the effects the Christchurch earthquakes have had on people. The 45-minute to 4-hour-long workshops have been designed by disaster recovery experts to help those still struggling to move on and adapt in this new version of Christchurch.
The workshops deal with what we refer to as the psychosocial aspects of recovery. So we're looking at how people are thinking, how they're feeling, and the kind of connections that they're making in their lives.
Already 150 people have taken part, with 1,000 expected by the end of the year. Some of the topics covered include the process of recovery, people's responses to a disaster, providing support to those in need, and handling stress.
It's really tempting at this stage to think that we should be over it. But what we know from research done with other communities internationally that have experienced disasters is that the emotional and psychological and social impacts of emergencies can go on for around 7 to 10 years.
A large amount of Cantabrians is still experiencing what the Red Cross is calling a disillusionment stage, following the results from the latest All Right survey.
27% of people were struggling, and so that's still, 1 in 4 people in Canterbury who are in that situation.
Like an aftershock, people are still being affected to this day, even if they don't realise it.
Where they're affected and where they may not believe that they're affected is where the structures and the rituals and the routines of life have actually been stripped away from them.
This is because Christchurch's landscape is vastly different now to what it was like pre-quake. The local library, pools and favourite cafes may no longer exist, and friends may have been red zoned. They might have since moved to a new city.
The question is were they affected? I would say yes, they are, quite significantly, because the things that gave their life meaning, that become part of the rich fabric of their life, have been stripped away.
Insurance companies and EQC staff members have been affected by dealing with clients. It's a stressful job, and already 12 staff members have experienced the seminar. Recently, journalist Olivia Carville reflected on her emotional experience covering the aftermath of the earthquake. Since then, journalists covering the rebuild have been dealing with serious issues on a day-to-day basis.
The interesting thing about it for me was that she was impacted. And I think it doesn't matter what role you're in, whether you're a journalist or whether you're working in some other helping role, one of the issues that we have is that often those who are helping with recovery are in recovery themselves.
The seminars will run until June 2016, and it's hoped they'll have a positive effect on Christchurch's disillusioned residents. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
Still to come on CTV News, remember El Grego the magician? Well, he's back, and this time he's going back to school. Welcome back to CTV News. Well, one last chance, but for how long? Freedom campers will be allowed to camp at the North Brighton car park until the council can come up with a better solution.
Freedom campers have been given another chance, stopping short of introducing a new bylaw to restrict them from camping in Christchurch City's public areas and beachfront. The council has instead taken a more measured approach, for the time being at least. All Freedom campers will now be considered by the council's enforcement unit on a case-by-case basis. They'll also be encouraged to move to paid accommodation sites and encouraged to park up at the North New Brighton car park only. So, will this work? Well, to some, Freedom campers have become a nuisance over the summer period here in Christchurch, taking over public car parks in New Brighton and frustrating local residents. Predominantly tourists, there are also claims they don't clean up after themselves and are noisy at night time. The council is still looking for a long-term solution as they investigate the possibility of introducing a new bylaw. But this week it says it wants to work through other options before the idea of a bylaw is on the table. The North Brighton Beach car park has been identified as a temporary solution and will be trialled for a short time. People will be given the opportunity to participate in discussions on a longer-term approach.
It's another step forward for the council's social housing, but today's demolition of an old apartment block in the CBD marks the next phase of the council's much-needed public housing stock. With its EQC claims settled, it's all systems go, as Jared McCulloch explains.
It's all go here with the demolition of these council-owned flats in central Christchurch. This 26-unit block is located at Airedale Court on Salisbury Street, with the site being the largest social housing complex in the council's portfolio. There were 115 social housing units in total at this particular location, and the council's social housing manager says he's happy with the progress.
For all of our portfolio at the time of 2,649 odd units, we've had to work through an insurance claim with EQC and then obviously our main insurer. So it's taken a huge amount of time to get through that process, quantify the damage and agree that with EQC. We finally got that agreed with EQC only last December. So we're outside of that process now. We've got the funds paid up and we're getting on and getting a lot of stuff done.
This building suffered extensive damage in the earthquakes, meaning it had to come down, with residents being moved to other temporary housing around the city. And he says it's been a project in the waiting. The first problem, identifying the serious structural damage.
This one here we actually identified was poorly designed in the 1960s. It had a brittle failure mechanism. In fact, if we had another large big shake, it could come down suddenly without warning.
And the housing rebuild manager says luck was on their side to get people into other accommodation fast.
We were quite lucky when we realised we were going to have to move people out of here, that some other people had relocated, and so we were able to house all the tenants that got taken out of the 24 units behind us. But we've got 300 people on the wait list that want to get into places, and so the quicker that we can get places rebuilt and reopened, the better it is for those tenants.
And Bailey says many of the apartments after the quakes needed some immediate attention.
This was an area that got quite a big shake, and so there are a whole bunch of units that sort of didn't quite work straight after the earthquakes. There were broken pipes and broken sewers, and so a whole bunch of people there needed to be some quick repair work, and so about 20 units were reopened soon after the quake. And now we've got these the lower level units have had some damage to their floors, and so we've just got to figure out how best to replace those and make them habitable for people so we can get people back into houses.
And he says their plans are truly underway.
The next 15 months we want to make sure we get about 130, 40 units reopened and rebuilt for the tenants. It's quite a big focus. This is part of it. There's a sort of clearing a site, which will be a tranche of work that will happen after we've sort of rebuilt. In the rest of the Airedale complex, we've got about 20 units that we're reopening at the moment. 2 opened a couple of weeks ago, and we're just sort of coming up with the plans about how we're going to reopen the rest of them as well.
He says it's more than just the demolition for him. Instead, his focus is on the move to repair other social housing blocks in the usually quiet community.
So most of the people, more than 60%, are over 60, so they're elderly folk, and so most of them retired. And then we've got a range of people from young through to elderly that are generally in high needs and have sort of high social needs, and so being close to bus routes and services and doctors and libraries is an important thing for them.
This is just one of many sites where buildings are coming down, but that's just not the main focus here either. They're also rebuilding and repairing others around the city. It's not understood yet how much it will cost to complete the program, but it's definitely in the multi-millions. And Bennett says the people in the flats here have been positive with the work being done.
We've had lots of briefing sessions with them, from barbecues to sort of run through what we're doing, the work. And look, I mean, they're really good. They understand that there's a bit of noise and a bit of discomfort, but they can see the bright side, that they're getting their flats repaired and that they'll be better off.
There are many other social housing projects going on around the city, but soon this building will be down and the work to rebuild and repair continues. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
The anti-bullying message is starting early for local children. Who could forget El Grego the Magician? He's been back visiting Christchurch primary schools this week to raise awareness.
Ready.
He's here to send out a positive message about a negative problem facing many schools around the country. But this magician, best known as El Grego, is here at this Christchurch primary school this morning, spreading some magic to students about bullying. Roydvale is one of 6 schools getting a visit from this top performer, starting this particular program over 15 years ago. And the school's principal says it's a great way for the students to understand how they should treat others in their learning environment.
I think it's a really good message for the children to hear in a really light-hearted way.
But the focus isn't just at schools, but at home too. And she says they've taken an active move in improving the issue.
We got our parents to fill out a survey a couple of weeks ago on our website about bullying at Roydvale School, so we could see what were some of the things that were happening here, so we could address some of those problems.
Bullying can be physical violence or even through the internet or text messaging. But Jenny says there's no one problem at all schools, and it comes down by case situations.
We have children who say to us they get left out. So for us, that's something that we need to look at and address and teach children how to include others and have a more inclusive environment. So I think it really totally depends on each individual school.
But the message to get out here is there's support and help for those dealing with bullies.
Don't panic. We've all been called a name at some stage, okay? But it's when people don't stop calling you names. Oh, it's not much fun. Or if people keep saying things that are untrue, things that are unkind about you, that's no fun either.
He's performed to more than 800,000 people, travelling throughout New Zealand with his show assistant and wife Sue. And this year he wants students to have fun with the performance and learn important life skills.
Here we go, Stinger. Have you got the blue? You're not going to let...
He received the New Zealand Order of Merit for his services to education, and now he's presenting this program, You've Got the Power, being here to both entertain and reassure kids through music, song and laughter, giving them the steps to succeed.
You may have heard another word at school, kia kaha. Kia kaha is a Maori word. It means to walk tall, put your head high, to be strong.
And the principal says the issue is getting targeted head on, and it's positive to see progress throughout all schools.
So I think schools are doing a really good job around the country around bringing in programs like the Kia Kaha program that the police education produce, getting support material like with El Grego coming in and teaching children bullying is not okay. So I do think schools are doing a good job around that.
And although it's a serious topic, the show will be remembered by these children for its message and entertainment.
Definitely the last. Stop it, Stinger. That's enough. Moving along.
Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Very nice. Well, still to come here on CTV News, the weekend's sports preview and the region's weather. Welcome back to CTV News. Here's Gordon with this week's sports preview.
Canterbury have moved to the top in the points table after a resounding win over Northern Districts in the 4-day Plunket Shield cricket competition. Taking on the previous competition leaders at Hagley Oval this week, Canterbury dominated for the majority of the 4 days. After being put into bat first, the home side managed a first innings total of 381, with 20-year-old debutant Leo Carter top scoring with 81. It was then the Canterbury bowlers' turn, with Matt Henry and Todd Astle taking 3 wickets each and bowling the opposition out for 234. The game's third day saw Canterbury consolidate their lead as captain Peter Fulton came up trumps with 123 not out as he declared the team's second innings on 338, setting Northern Districts a formidable total of 485. Canterbury finished day 3 in style, with Matt Henry and Ed Nuttall grabbing 5 quick wickets between them. The side then wrapped up the win yesterday, dismissing the Knights for 184, sealing the emphatic win. The defending champs will now look to maintain their competition lead when they take on Central Districts in Nelson beginning Tuesday. Well, after a weekend off, the Crusaders will be looking to get back into the win column after a slow start to this year's Super Rugby campaign. The team for tomorrow afternoon's match against the Lions is a strong one on paper, with the forward pack helped with the return of Owen Franks at prop, Sam Whitelock at lock, with captain Kieran Reid also returning at number 8. Andy Ellis will get his first start at halfback since returning from Japan, while Nemani Nadolo is also returning from Japan and he starts on the wing. After being troubled by further injury problems this season, Dan Carter comes back into the lineup, teaming up with Colin Slade, who will start at first 5, with the 2 natural first 5s adding extra creative options to the backline.
2 playmakers really. We've got a third with Tom Taylor at fullback, so there's plenty of guys there, and the way the games really open up, just whoever's there basically gets into first receiver, and you can play a little bit of sort of left field, right field. Don't want to give away too much, but just gives that sort of flexibility of whoever's there just steps up and runs it.
And finally tonight, the Tactics face a tough task on Monday night when they look for their first win in this season's ANZ Netball Championship. And although their opposition have also started their season with 2 losses, they may be considered to have the upper hand after the 2 sides met in pre-season.
Yeah, pre-season was an interesting game. I didn't think that we attacked our game plan as well as we will do on Monday night. We allowed them to intimidate more than what we need to, and I think you'll see a different result on Monday night because we'll be a little bit more dogged in what we're doing.
Last weekend's loss to the Steel in Invercargill was riddled with unforced errors. So how does the coach go about erasing those niggly little mistakes?
The coach becomes good guy, bad guy, and I think I've been a bit of a bad guy this week, and that's where your assistant coach is the good guy. But it's about making sure that they finish off and that they cut down those error rates, because they practice errors at training. They'll do it on court, so you need to really eliminate that out of training.
Making use of possession and capitalising on defensive turnovers is something the side know they will have to improve on for this season to be a success.
Every ball that you get in this competition is absolute gold, and we had a lot of too many turnovers in that last game, and so we've put it to bed, we've put it to rest, but it's it's learning from that, and it's ensuring that every single ball that you get from the defence end you've got to score, and likewise every centre pass that we have, we've got to make sure we score those as well. So yeah, it's a challenge, and of course the other team are trying to stop you from doing that, but it's about taking control individually, being able to make sure you secure the ball in every single way, not losing our flair, because I think that's something that we've got a special in this group, but ensuring that it's a calculated pass, that we're there for each other, there's 2 options on attack, and just really finishing off in the end.
With an 8-day break between games, the team has had an extra couple of days to prepare for their home match at Horncastle Arena. Coach Sue Hawkins has highlighted areas of the Pulse's play that they will look to take advantage on, while a shuffle around for Monday night's defensive pairing could be on the cards.
The go-to person at the moment, Jodie Brown, is someone that we really need to nail, and we're looking to have tactics that will counteract her. We've also got up our sleeve a little bit of defensive shuffle with a few players who have been out of position this week, which gives us a little bit more depth in variety. So you'll see a bit of movement there. I'm running with Demelza, who's, I've got to make sure that she can last the entire game at goal defence. And the bottom line is Jodie is not strong in the last quarter, and that showed on Monday night that they wore her down. So we need to make sure that we do the job as goal defences out on that court.
And here's hoping that win can come on Monday night. You're up to date with the latest in local sport. I'm Gordon Findlater for CTV Sport.
Thank you, Gordon. Now time for the region's weather.
Good evening, Canterbury. Let's take a look at your weather. Timaru, Temuka and Geraldine, you're all on 27 today. Ashburton 27 for you, Methven slightly warmer on 28 degrees. Rakaya 27 for you also. Darfield, you're on 28 today, Leeston and Rolleston 27 for you. Lincoln and Christchurch 27 for you also. Over in Akaroa now, it was a nice day for you today on 28 degrees. Further north, Kaiapoi, Rangiora and Amberley, you all shared a high of 28 degrees. Culverden, Hamner Springs and Cheviot, the sunscreen was possibly needed today with a high of 30 degrees. And Kaikoura, a lot cooler for you on 25 degrees. Let's take a look at tomorrow's weather now. It will be mostly cloudy and cool with northeasterly winds developing for Timaru. Your low tonight is 9, tomorrow's high 17 degrees. Ashburton now will be overcast at first, but that cloud will break during the afternoon with just some light northeasterly winds. Your low tonight is 9, tomorrow's high 17. Christchurch, a few showers at first, but they'll clear with just some cloud remaining and some cooler temperatures for you and some southwesterly winds dying out later on in the day. Your overnight low is 10, tomorrow's high 17 degrees. Kaikoura now, morning showers for you tomorrow, but they'll clear with just a few clouds remaining during the day and cool northeasterly winds. Your low tonight is 10, tomorrow's high 17 degrees. Taking a look at the other areas around the region now, Temuka and Geraldine, there'll be some cloud at first, but that will disappear to bring out a nice fine day, 19 degrees tomorrow. Methven and Rakaya, a cloudy day for you tomorrow, 17 degrees. Darfield, Leeston, Rolleston and Lincoln, all sharing the same tomorrow, cloudy and then 17 degrees. Over in Akaroa tomorrow, cloud at first, and then cloud in the afternoon, 17 degrees. Kaiapoi, Rangiora and Amberley, it'll be a cloudy day all day for you, 17 degrees. Culverden, Hamner Springs and Cheviot, also cloudy for you all day, and a high of 17. Looking ahead for Canterbury now, there'll be some sunny periods on Sunday, but high cloud will increase during the day with just some moderate northeasterly winds and some mild temperatures. The cloud will increase and the rain will develop on Monday with some colder southerly winds. Taking a look at Tuesday now, cloudy and cold for you with just a period of rain here and there and some fresh to strong gusty southwesterly winds. The rain will clear on Wednesday though with just some cold southerly breezes. And for Thursday, it'll be mostly fine and sunny with just some moderate northeasterly winds and mild temperatures throughout the day. And that is your weather for Friday.
And that is CTV News for your Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.